Picture this. You've painstakingly built a multi-million-dollar business, yet so often it feels like the gears still grind to a halt because you have too much on your desk waiting for a review or approval. If this sounds familiar, here's the kicker as to why this is still happening. Because the people you pay to grease the wheels and get things running smoothly, your middle managers, don't have clear lines of demarcation on what they can and can't do without kicking it upstairs. According to Gallup's 2025 workplace report, only 27% of managers are actually engaged in their work, and 70% of a team's engagement swings on that manager's behavior, driving a staggering $438 billion in lost productivity just last year. Let me drive the impact of those stats home a bit more with this scary bottom line. If your managers aren't leading effectively, you'll lose more than just profits. You're losing time, money, and as I talked about in a previous episode, potentially good people to subpar management.
Welcome to the Biz Doctor Podcast, my love letter to business owners the world over. I'm your host, Lauren Goldstein, award-winning business consultant and advisor fondly nicknamed the Biz Doctor by my clients. I help business owners who are burning the candle at both ends diagnose what is actually keeping them buried in the day-to-day busy work, and then formulate a treatment plan to adjust their business and team to fit them, so they can take a breath and a vacation and have more fun making a bigger impact than ever. So grab your favorite beverage and your earbuds, and let's dive into our latest episode.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret to crack the code so you can unlock your middle managers into more effective, autonomous leaders that will allow you to take another step to being completely out of the day-to-day triage and get you more of that freedom you've worked so hard to have. First and foremost, this management drag. It's because 53% of middle managers say they're so swamped with tasks that they can't give direct reports the coaching they need. Translation, your growth engine is stuck in first gear. And I have seen this firsthand with one of my COO clients. When I was in the COO seat, I interviewed all of the GMs. And you know the thing that they told me most often? I'm so busy. I have meetings. I'm trying to still do sales. I'm trying to manage everybody and do training and recruiting and all the things. Now, on one hand, it might be nice to have a jack of all trades, but you know what they say, a jack of all trades is a master of none. And if your GMs aren't actually having the time to get the things done that they need to get done to make momentum happen, you're just paying for very expensive people on your team. So why does this happen? First and foremost, it's because of role soup. You know what I'm talking about. Vague job descriptions and accountabilities for managers often create a confusing mix of daily firefighting, reporting, and people leadership that often ends in balls being dropped, poor performance, burnout, and even the silent killer of teams, resentment. Also, let's talk about death by meeting. Managers and directors log an average of 13 hours a week in meetings. Just so you know what that means in our easy terms, about 1.5 full workdays. Over 35% of their time is in meetings. And McKinsey found that nearly 50% of middle managers' hours go to non-managerial tasks, almost a full day on admin alone. And let's not even go down the rabbit hole of adding in the 6 to 8 hours lost to the email, chat, Slack overflow from those meetings. Woof. That leaves, if you're playing along and good at math, maybe 6 to 8 hours, or about 15 to 20% for the high value work you actually pay them for. You know, developing people, steering strategy, unblocking growth. No wonder more than half feel they're managing by triage instead of leadership and are feeling or are ineffective. They literally spend the bulk of their work week in stacked meetings talking about all the things and not really getting anything done. There's also a really interesting thing that happens too, called approval addiction. Managers who consistently get rewarded for quote unquote checking with the boss become professional permission seekers and drain so much of your time. Now, last but not least, the reason a lot of this happens is something that is actually easily fixable, which is a skill gap. Many were promoted for individual contribution or technical prowess, not leadership acumen. And less than half of those who get promoted receive formal leadership training before being thrown to the wolves. Remember that client that I told you about just a little bit ago? Well, they have this one in spades. Just about every single person they have in their sales leadership, they promoted before my time because they hit sales goals, not because they had traits to make them effective leaders. Now, I may get a lot of heat for this or ruffle your feathers, but high-performing salespeople rarely, if ever, make truly effective leaders. 2 different skill sets, 2 different motivations. High-performing sales leaders love the chase, the hunt, being the best, competition. Leadership and management is about mastering the art of getting results from someone else, and that takes a tremendous amount of humility, emotional intelligence, patience, and coaching. You see the problem? So before you promote someone to a manager, make sure they really want to be a leader. Sometimes it's in everyone's best interest to promote them on an IC path instead of a leadership path. And oh, spoiler alert, if your promo paths for your team only lead to management, you're doing both your business and your team a disservice. Now, if this overwhelms you and you're like, oh, another thing I have to do, it's really not as hard as you think. To have an individual contributor path and a leadership path, they look very similar, except the caveat of managing someone. You can still promote someone and give them pay raises and more responsibilities without tying them to leadership or management. You just have to take a pause and build it out. So what does this management ineffective look like as a cost to you, the business owner? Well, first and foremost, decision bottlenecks slow revenue capture and decrease profits due to inefficiencies. And 1/3 of middle managers' week, or about 14 hours, disappears into meetings. So you're starving the team of real leadership time, leaving less than 1 day for coaching and strategy. Now here's the big one, talent churn. Talent churn rises as top performers bolt from unclear direction and ineffective management, which racks up thousands upon thousands of dollars in replacement costs, not to mention the time drain on the team. Sidebar, if you want to know more about how to increase retention, go back and listen to the recipe for team retention, which is episode 91. Now, you, the owner, this is the last one, and this is the big one. You, the owner, become the 24/7 answer desk. Bye-bye freedom. Y'all have heard me say it time and time again. Your number one job as a leader is to create other leaders, and enabling them by being their Google or ChatGPT for everything is not going to get you the freedom you want or get you out of the weeds. So before I give you the framework, here's the biggest mindset shift to turn your middle managers into more effective and autonomous leaders. You ready? Your job is no longer solving problems and being the expert who people come to, including your clients. I know it feels good to be needed, but it's a trap. Your number one job is building problem solvers who come to you with solutions and when things really need your expertise, so you can focus on the high-level strategy and vision. And heck, maybe take a hard-earned vacation every now and then. Quick pause before we dive into this next bit. Because if you're ready for more freedom, autonomy, and let's be honest, fun in your business, then this is for you. Our Golden Key Scorecard is the best plug-and-play tool designed to help your team run with more clarity, autonomy, accountability, and capacity, so you can focus on driving growth instead of managing chaos. It's the same framework we use with our clients to create high-performing, self-sufficient teams that unlock their next level of scalability, ease, and profitability. If you're ready to step fully into the owner seat and have a business that runs with you, not because of you, then this scorecard is the roadmap you've been looking for. It's going to be the game changer to take your successful business from good to great, not to mention save you a lot of team headaches while we're at it. You can download it for free at goldenkeypartnership.com/go and unlock the next level of success for your team and your business. Now back to the episode. All right, here's the good stuff. Because autonomous and effective managers are worth their weight in, you guessed it, gold, I want to give you a simple framework and acronym to develop them differently. I'm going to give you the overview of the framework and then dive more into each piece a little bit later. So the acronym is GOLDD. The first G, goals, crystal clear outcomes, accountabilities, and metrics. If you can't explain it to a fifth grader and know what steps need to happen to get there, it's not a goal, it's a wish. Ownership, decision rights and resources. Who owns the win and the lessons? Next, L, latitude, guardrails, then green lights. Set the rails and let them drive the train. I actually gave my client this homework just yesterday to create what I call a stoplight document for one of her leaders. Essentially, green things they have full ownership and autonomy over, yellow they need to check with their manager about it, and red is something that needs approval, discussion, or someone else owns it. D, development, ongoing coaching and feedback loops. Something as simple as 30-minute growth one-on-ones monthly. Lastly, deep work. Protected focus time for strategic projects and frankly, just to get some shit done. I recommend at least 2 90-minute meeting-free focus blocks weekly. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper. Back to goals. Translate company OKRs into department metrics and milestones that are clear, measurable, and are visible to all. Also, I will say this for the 100th time, revenue is a lagging metric. So if you're using revenue as your only goal for someone, stop it. Truly stop it. Revenue is lagging, but it's also super hard to control. So go upstream to what you can control, what creates the revenue, and make those goals solid. Ownership. Assign a single champion to every initiative. Champions present progress in your weekly leadership meetings so you can keep on track and build momentum. This also means that when you give a leader something to do, listen close, you don't take it back. I have a client who is notorious for delegating and then taking it back if it wasn't done fast enough or how he wanted it. Don't be that kind of leader. It not only undermines your team, but it shows them that you don't trust them. It doesn't let them learn and lead. And spoiler alert, the A players you want aren't going to stick around and put up with that kind of leadership BS. Latitude. Use my stoplight document if you want, something simple and effective. But if you want to take it up a notch, then utilize the delegation ladder, which is a hybrid of Michael Hyatt's 5 levels of delegation that you've heard me talk about before. Do as I say, research and report, recommend, decide and inform, act independently. And Jürgen Appello of Management 3.0, circa 2010. His goes, tell, sell, consult, agree, advise, where you aim to move each manager up a rung quarterly. What do these rungs look like? First, you got tell. Basically, it goes, I decide, you do. The manager makes the call and issues instructions. There's no discussion. When you can use it, emergencies, new employees, compliance work, you get the idea. Second rung is sell. This is, I decide, here's why. The manager still decides, but takes time to explain the rationale and win buy-in by selling the team on it. This comes in handy when rolling out new policies, but keep in mind mild resistance is expected. Then you've got consult. Give me your input and I'll decide. The manager gathers opinions, weighs them, and then chooses. This is useful when the team is knowledgeable and valuable, yet accountability must stay with you. The fourth rung is agree. Let's decide together. This is where the manager and team discuss options and reach a consensus. Ownership is shared. This is good for cross-functional decisions that affect many stakeholders or different departments. And then the fifth rung. The fifth rung is advice. You decide, I'm here if you want my view. This is where you, the leader, will offer your guidance only if asked. The final call rests with your team and your managers. This is for mature managers, routine operational choices, and leadership development. Now we go to the first D, development. I recommend blocking 10% of every manager's week for learning, whether that's internal playbooks, external masterminds, shadowing peers, or working one-on-one with you if you're grooming them for a specific leadership role. And then this is the big one. I really cannot stress this one enough. Deep work will positively impact your business in ways you cannot even imagine in this moment. So have your leadership schedule at least 2 90-minute distraction-free focus blocks weekly. And if you really want to start cooking with gas, as my grandma would say, take a page out of my book with admin days and enforce team-wide meeting-free Wednesday mornings. I personally recommend the whole day, but you can start with just the mornings. And if you really want to get your business booming, I recommend doing deep work blocks for your entire team, not just management. One of the single biggest things I see when I come into a company is that they're just running on this hamster wheel of constantly adding more to their plate, not getting things done, and it's exhausting. That's how burnout happens. But if you intentionally have everybody block out and respect deep work time, the momentum magic is amazing. So again, GOLDD. You want to have clear goals, clear ownership, clear latitude, and guardrails. Make sure you're developing them and prioritize deep work. Lastly, because you know me, I love giving you things that you can do today after you stop listening. So here are some of my favorite capacity catalysts that you can roll out as soon as this episode finishes. First, the 1-3-1 rule. If you've been listening for a while, you know I talk about this a lot, but this is truly one of my most favorite ways to create capacity for you, but also empower your middle managers and leaders across the board to be more effective critical thinkers, problem solvers, and autonomous. So it's 1 problem, well-defined, 3 viable options, and 1 recommendation. And the reason it's 1 problem well-defined is because a problem well-defined is half solved. A lot of times we go try and solve problems that we don't actually know what the problem is. Talk about chasing your tail. And then they give you 3 viable options that they have thought through. Viable paths with risk, costs, ripple effects, etc. Again, they should be doing the thinking and coming to you with solutions. And then 1 recommendation. Their chosen route and why. Why I love this so much is because it actually pushes down the critical thinking and decision making to where the information to solve the problem actually lives, which is the frontline leaders. Because if you don't do this, this is what happens. Your leader is going to come to you with a problem. You spend 2 hours trying to get all the information about the problem to then come back together and try and solve the problem. This cuts out all of that. And trust me, your leaders will love that you trust them enough to come to you with solutions. And then bonus, I know it is very easy that when somebody comes to you with a problem that you know how to solve, don't jump right into problem solving mode with them, especially when you're trying to develop more autonomous and effective leaders. So whenever one of your managers comes to you next time, take a breath and ask, what do you think we should do? Trust me, it's so freeing. Also, fun caveat, sometimes, and especially when you ask this question, it illuminates that maybe they're coming to you to vent and they don't actually need you to solve a problem. So another great question that I love to ask is, do you want me to listen or do you want me to support? Second, I recommend a 90-day growth sprint. Pick an area of leadership that your team wants to develop, let's say coaching or communication, and map out a plan with them on how they're going to learn, grow, and improve that skill and how they're measuring improvement. Then present how it went and decide on the next skill at your next quarterly meeting. Like muscles in our body, leadership is something that you must work on consistently to grow. It's uncomfortable, painful at times, egos get bruised, but the best leaders are the ones that are insatiable with their appetite to grow and develop others as well as themselves. And then third, this is also one of my favorites. I know all of these are my favorite, but this one honestly is surprising how effective it is. Shadow Swap Fridays. Monthly, once a month, for a half day, have your managers shadow other teams to build cross-functional understanding, empathy, and spot process bottlenecks, and ultimately improve teamwork. It's really amazing to see what happens when your front of house and back of house and different departments suddenly understand the stresses and requirements and steps in a totally different way. Suddenly, snappy emails about why you can't get something to me are met with empathy and patience because they know what the other team is dealing with. Now, this isn't to say that you get to let your team be slackers, but it does allow for a certain level of understanding that ultimately improves teamwork. So these catalysts free your capacity by expanding theirs. Autonomous leaders aren't just hired, they're forged into gold. I know that was corny, but it works. So GOLDD. Clarify goals, hand over ownership, grant latitude, fuel development, and carve out time for deep work. Give this framework a go for your team and see just how fast your team and business start accelerating. I promise your whole team will breathe a sigh of relief and will run faster when you empower and grow them into the leaders and managers we know they can be. I know I packed a lot into this episode, so thank you so much for listening in and sticking with me to the end. Be sure to bookmark this episode to come back to. Of course, if anything I shared sparked something in you or resonated, I'd love to hear about it and for you to share this episode with your fellow business owners. Find me on the interwebs and let's connect. Tag or DM me on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein or LinkedIn or wherever you hang out online. Please take a moment to also rate and review our show so it shows up to more people who need to hear it. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe so you're the first to get notified when our next episode is live and ready for your ears. Thanks so much for listening. That's it for this week's episode. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Biz Doctor podcast. Now, I like to say that friends don't let friends WebMD your business. So if you're wondering what your next steps could be, here are some options for you. No matter what, head to the show notes or to my website, goldenkeypartnership.com, for some impactful resources to support you getting out from under your business. That's also where you'll find the links to learn more about our services and how we support business owners, just like you, who are ready to make the successful jump from business operator in the trenches to visionary business owner with more freedom and flexibility. All of that info is on our website, so pop on over to learn more or get in touch. goldenkeypartnership.com. Finally, if you love the Biz Doctor podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would share it with your friends and network and give us a 5-star rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast.
An original
from Story Studio Network.